Hey guys, last week I did a video on tomatoes, talked in depth about the pros and cons of different types of tomatoes. Basically, the main takeaways are this. American tomatoes just don't taste good, in part because the manufacturers always put citric acid and calcium chloride in, which tremendously affects the taste. The Italian brands typically do not. So this video is a follow-up from last week because I was walking down the aisle in Walmart the other day and I saw a new type of tomato I've never seen before in the store. It's the Cento brand, but it's cherry tomatoes. I got really excited when I saw this because cherry tomatoes are typically sweeter than the regular tomatoes. So I bought a can to try them out. I'm going to use my typical Cento Italian style tomatoes as the baseline. These are just really good tomatoes, especially for the value. But I thought while I'm at it, I'm going to add a third type and just do another comparison. These are the Muti brand hill tomatoes. According to the internet, this brand is the most popular brand in Italy. So they're probably pretty good. I've never had them before. They're more expensive than Cento. We'll see. Cento, both of these Cento ones have nearly identical ingredients. They both have tomatoes, tomato juice, salt, and this one has basil leaves in it. Muti just has tomatoes and tomato juice, no salt. So I'm gonna have to add more salt into this one than the others. We'll experiment a little bit and do a taste test. So I typically add 7 grams of salt in the Centos. So I'm gonna start off with this. Now, since we're talking about tomatoes, on New York pizza, it's really typical. You're going to have the sauce, either a fine puree or small chunks of tomatoes or larger chunks. My personal preference is the smaller chunks, so I try to go for that. I just do that by turning the blender on at a low speed for a short period of time. And also, you're going to see in New York sauce that is simply tomatoes and salt, and you're going to have sauce that is flavored, typically heavy with the oregano. Now, when you use oregano, you got to offset the bitterness of oregano by putting sugar in. But typically, sauce in New York is just oregano, salt, sugar, maybe a little something else. I'm not sure. I've got my own pretty good recipe I've devised when I want to use the oregano, but today I'm just going to use pure tomatoes, see how it tastes. Okay, 7 grams of salt. I'm not exactly sure how much I'm going to have to put in that Muti, but I'll probably start at just a tiny bit much. There we go. I'll probably start at 8 grams, go from there. That's it. All right. Not sure if you can tell, but you should be able to see some little tomato chunks in there. That's how I like it. Okay, that is this one. Let's try the cherry tomatoes next. Oh, and I'm using table salt, by the way. I did do a video a couple weeks ago on different types of salt, and it can make a difference what type of salt you're using. But for my recipes, unless I say otherwise, it's table salt. a little too much in. There we go. Okay, 7 grams in the cherry tomato Cento ones. That's it. Cherry tomatoes seem to blend up a lot faster, so it only took a short few seconds. Looks a little more runny. Okay. Now let's try the Muti. First time ever eating this brand. You see, even right on the label, it says no calcium chloride. The Italians know their tomatoes. Okay, I'm going to start off with 8 grams of salt in this one. Got a little bit of salt on the side. There we go. So those tomatoes are actually a lot softer than the Centos, I noticed. They just blended up a lot faster than the Cento whole peeled ones. All right. It's time for a taste test. So first is my regular Cento whole peeled Italian style ones. This is my baseline. Very good, like I expect. This is what I'm excited about, the cherry tomatoes. They're more flavorful, for sure. A little more sweet. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Now the Muti. Those taste almost the exact same as my Cento whole peeled ones. Let me do it. I'm going to go back to the Cento whole peeled to see what they taste like. I think the Mutis actually have a little more flavor. Yeah, they do. I gotta say, I like the Mutis better than my traditional Cento whole peeled ones. Wow. All right, let me try the cherry tomatoes again. It's a little bit different. A little bit different taste. Okay, I'm going back to the Cento, my baseline ones again. Yeah. I gotta say the cherry tomatoes taste better than the Cento whole peeled ones. I've been using forever. That's interesting. Let me try the Mutis one more time. Honestly, I think the Mutis are the best one. So my last tomato video, I compared these Italian style ones to the San Marzanos, also by Cento. And I gave the San Marzanos a 10 out of 10. These are like a 9.5 out of 10. And I gave the Hunts a 1 out of a courtesy. Should have been a 0. But I got to say that I think the cherry tomatoes and the Mutis are quite a bit better than the Cento whole peeled ones. Yeah. With this in mind, I'm going to give Muti 10 out of 10. The Cento cherry tomatoes 9 out of 10. And the Cento whole peeled tomatoes 8 out of 10. I'm bumping them down. And I should say that the Cento whole peel costs the same amount as the Cento cherries at Walmart, at least. The Mutis were more. These were like, the Centos were under $3 a piece, but these Mutis were like $5.50 at Albertsons. I think I saw these at Sprouts a while back for like $4. Not that much more, but these are really good. I'm going to use these ones on my pizza I'm making here in a second. 8 grams of salt in this tasted very similar to 7 grams in the Centos, so I'm happy with that. It was a good guess. I'm really impressed with these Muti brand tomatoes though. Wow. So let's go. I'm going to make a pizza now. Okay, here's my dough ball. It's about perfect. Somebody in the comments on my last video was asking about it, so I'm going to tell you exactly how long I raised this for. I mixed it in a bowl last night, and I mixed it just, long enough for the ingredients to mesh together. Not long, you don't want to overmix it. Then I left it in the mixing bowl for close to an hour. I usually let it sit for about 30 to 40 minutes, but I got distracted last night. Came back after an hour, made the dough ball, and put the dough ball directly into the fridge. It was in the fridge until this morning at 8 o'clock. So it was in the fridge for about 10 hours. And I took it out, and it's been resting at room temperature for just about 4.5 hours, which is about as long as I want to for this recipe. For this recipe, somewhere between 3 hours and 4.5 is where you want it. You want to make sure that basically if you start to see a large air bubble or a large gas bubble start to form, then it's too long and you got to bake it real fast. So I'm just getting to that point where it's about perfect, but too much longer is probably not ideal. So that's that. Yeah, this dough is already really soft. I wouldn't recommend any longer than probably 4 hours is about as much as you want for this recipe. I mean, it kind of depends on how warm the room temperature is, how fresh the yeast is. All those little variables make a big difference. But this dough is pretty soft. A little bit softer than I want, but it'll work. All right, that's about it. There, see that? The recipe, I'm going to put the recipe in the description, the video description, but it's meant to make one about 12-inch pie. And I'm putting exactly 70 grams of tomatoes on. These are the Muti tomatoes with 8 grams of salt in 1 can. 85 grams of Trader Joe's part skim cheese. And I'm going to let it bake for about 4 minutes at max. So max on my oven is 550 degrees. However, I can usually get that pizza pan up to about 630 degrees or so, 620 to 630. And I'm going to put this directly on the pizza pan. So let's see where we're at. Yep, 630. Okay, I'm going to check back in 4 minutes. It's been just under 4 minutes. It looks like it's getting close. Yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe about 15, 20 more seconds. All right, that's about perfect. I'm looking for the cheese. When I start to see, I want to see just a couple little brown spots on there. I want to see just a couple little tiny brown burn spots on the cheese. That's how I know it's done. So I'm gonna let it cool down for a few minutes and try it out. All right, it's been a few minutes and this is looking really good. So final product. Like I said, the dough raised for a little bit longer than ideal. That's why you've got this huge burned out air bubble right there. Doesn't look great, but not too, oops, sorry. Doesn't look great, but it's not the worst thing ever. The rest of the rim is really, really airy. So let's cut it up and try it out. Yeah, look at this. Look at that rim. See how nice and airy that is? Perfect. This is absolutely perfect. Give it a try. Yeah, those are good tomatoes. That's really good pizza. See, when you use ingredients that good, when you use tomatoes that good, you don't need to add anything for flavor. It's just there. This is how it tastes like similar to how it tastes like in Italy. You know, in Naples, they don't put anything in the tomatoes but salt because they had exceptional quality tomatoes. And this is really good. Yep. That is so good. I'm really pleased with this. Hey guys, hey, try it out. Let me know what you think. If you do the recipe, you got to follow it exactly. You got to have your measuring scales measure to the gram. You've got to use King Arthur flour. You've got to use the right tomatoes, the right cheese. But if you do that, you're going to be really impressed, I think. I like these tomatoes so much. This is my new go-to brand for pizza, Mutti. A little more expensive, but it's worth it. These are so good. These tomatoes do taste just like the ones I had when I was traveling through Italy. Very, very, very good. Thanks for watching. Hey, I'm back. There's one thing I forgot to mention. I was at Albertsons the other day and I noticed these San Marzano style tomatoes by Signature Select, which is Albertson and Safeway's, like their aftermarket brand. And so I was curious. I picked them up. I look at the ingredients and you see that they've got tomatoes, tomato juice, salt, basil, and citric acid. Now, citric acid is really uncommon in any Italian tomatoes, especially San Marzanos. And so I took a closer look at the label, and nowhere on the label is there anything that says it's a product of Italy or imported. And so I think what they're doing here is trying to deceive you. What they did is put a couple of basil leaves in there and say, hey, this is Italian style. This is San Marzano style because it has a basil leaf in there. They're not San Marzano. They're not from San Marzano. They're not imported. They're just San Marzano style because we put a basil leaf in. So I'm not going to waste my money on that junk, but I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing. So be cautious because that is, if you ask me, that's fraudulent. It's deceptive. I can pretty much assure you those tomatoes are not from the San Marzano region of Italy or anywhere in Italy. That's all. Thanks.